Hi, role-playing boys and girls. My co-host Zoltan has already posted his picks for his top 10, but now I get to tell you what's cool. Let's go! Number 10. Shadow Heart's Covenant. This game symbolizes PS2 era RPGs, full of new and shiny mechanics while still being solid examples of the genre. You won't be confused about what kind of game you're playing, but you won't be bored by either. The fun Judgment Ring mechanic keeps combat from being just another turn-based game, but it also permeates the design of the entire game world in a way few other games manage to pull off with the systems that they include. Check out our Turn-Based Memories episode number 5 to see our full thoughts on the game. I love it. Zoltan fucking loves it. Shadow Hearts 2, or Shadow Hearts Covenant, is a tough game to beat. So let's go right ahead and beat it with 9 other games. Number 9. Fallout 3. A Western RPG? What a twist. I mean, I guess. But they count too. This one in particular for being such a strong introduction to both the open world format we're now awash among other Western RPGs, and the morality choices that became so popular until they didn't. So what moments made this game so dang special? How about when you come out of the vault for the first time? Or the freedom of an open world that lets you look on the horizon, see something cool, and think to yourself, okay, that's my next objective. The story, the presentation, even the gameplay all kinda took a backseat to the format of the game for me. Now, others have done all of this before, but I didn't play them, so they don't count. Number 8. Final Fantasy VI. Some folks might say this game deserves to be higher on the list. Some folks need to realize this is my list, dammit. I can only include games that I've played, so if you're looking for other, quote, big obvious additions to the list, that might be your explanation. Anyway, Final Fantasy VI. This game makes its way to my list thanks to our very own show. If not for a requirement that lit a fire under my ass, I may have gone my whole life without giving this game its due. Final Fantasy VI so clearly sets the table for what JRPGs would become while perfecting everything they had done up to that point. I'm not necessarily holding everything to this standard, but this is that rare game that is at once fun to play and massively historically significant. For our full rundown of Final Fantasy VI, check out episode 8. Hey, that's the number this game got. What a coincidence. Number 7. Fire Emblem. The first North American release of the series for the Game Boy Advance. Now, this one is damn important because this is the first time we got a taste of a series that truly should have made its way west a little sooner. And if Fire Emblem's reception since then is any indication, it was a smart move. Fire Emblem is an incredible cocktail of strategy, role-playing game, grinding, and visual novel. The game's original parameters of permadeath and no option to grind on extra maps make each encounter also behave like a puzzle, challenging you to find the most optimal way to feed experience to some characters while keeping others safe, recruiting additions to your team, and a whole lot more. I'm just picking the first American entry because of its importance to the series, but they've made more meaningful improvements to the games all along. Still though, this one is very fun to come back to even if you're more familiar with the recent entries in the series. Number 6. Dragon Quest VIII. Man, if you want a pure and high-quality JRPG with no frills and no new stuff getting in the way, If you want about the most straight-up console turn-based gameplay to date, it is, I assume, until the Western release of Dragon Quest XI, then Dragon Quest VIII is your best bet. This game is high fantasy as fuck, full of quality iterations upon the classic formula like voice acting, beautiful combat animations, and visually represented weapons. It's Dragon Quest, but more. Dragon Quest VIII has long been a classic standard bearer, and I'm choosing number 8 because 11 isn't out yet at the time of recording. Now we're at the halfway mark. It's time to pick the big boys, who are not only classics that I love personally, but are significant contributors to the genre. Number 5. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Don't argue with me now, this is an action RPG with character levels, equipment stats, damage numbers, and the regular need, if not the regular encouragement, for grinding. So, aside from sparking the entire Metroidvania subgenre, Symphony is a damn joy to play. It's just challenging enough on your first run. It really nails the difficulty curve like precious few other games manage to do. Also, the game is aged like fine wine, especially for a PS1 title. The 2D graphics rescued it from the fugly early 3D era of gaming, especially on the PS1. Even the voice acting has managed to ascend into this kind of meme cheese heaven. The music still rings in my ear. The replay value is probably the highest of any game on this list. Sadly, it seems all other Metroidvanias to have spawned out because of it have not ever quite measured up. And many, many have tried. Number 4. Grandia 2. Chalk this particular pickup to a shining example of innovation in turn-based combat. Sure, Shadow Hearts has some cool systems layered on top, but a game like Grandia 2 is as much a revolution to the turn-based combat as the ATB system was. Only I like what Grandia 2 does more, which is part of why it's so high up on this list. But Grandia 2 brings things way more to the table than just a cool twist on gameplay. The story and the music, the character development, and even the voice acting are all fun. They're just simply fun. There's a lot of fun unlockables too. All the biggest knocks against the game are technical in nature. The frame rate is balls. The visuals have not aged well. The PS2 version, in particular, suffers a ton of bad artifacting and popping. But now we have a really rock-solid PC remaster, so a lot of even those problems no longer exist if you're playing on the right platform. Number 3. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. I picked this one as our first episode of Turn-Based Memories for a dang reason. I know it doesn't really push the genre in any profound directions, and that the visuals, the music, and the challenge, and the story are all not the best examples that can be summoned up, but I argue that this game does something far more important than all of that. The fun and approachable Mario aesthetic introduced the genre of role-playing games to a lot of newcomers, myself included. We go over it in a lot more detail in episode 1, but suffice it to say that Mario RPG was my gateway drug, and for that, it gets number 3. These next two games, I wish I could just say equally get the top slot, but they can't, unfortunately, so I must choose. I must make the impossible choice. Number 2. Final Fantasy XII. So we'll go with this game for number 2. Now, where do I even begin with this game? How about the voice acting? or the world building, or a game so grind-friendly you wouldn't even have to be Zoltan to like it. Now, I know Final Fantasy XII has its detractors who find the combat trivial, or they get hung up on the weaker elements of the game's unfinished story. I get all of that, but for me, the promise of the finished product shines through for all of its shortcomings. It's a little difficult to explain, but I don't want to get too in-depth because perhaps you should stay tuned to the channel if you want more discussion on this game. Hint hint. And yet, I'll say this. Ain't no one else got Balthier. Come on now, that's right, you know it. Number 1. Skies of goddamn Arcadia Legends, and you know it. You damn well know it. Of course it's Skies of Arcadia Legends for the Nintendo GameCube. Of course it is. Who do you think you're listening to? This game, for me, has it all. All the things I want are here. A fun story, a big fun thing to work toward, an open world to explore, good writing, great music, turn-based combat with fun ship combat thrown into the mix. It's often cited as being a very tropey JRPG, and it is, but it also manages to do all of those tropes exceptionally well. Maybe I'm being incredibly biased. Maybe you're being incredibly stupid. We'll never know. Maybe I've never topped the fun things that this game has done for me in any subsequent single-player game from any genre. Maybe I've been silently waiting to get back to that moment ever since I first got there. And now, some quick honorable mentions that couldn't quite find their way into this list. Final Fantasy XIV, for being the best console and controller-based MMO. The Xenosaga series, episodes 1 through 3, for being my greatest guilty pleasure. And The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, because it's almost not even a role-playing game. I mean, well, let's have that discussion at a later time, but for now, it's an honorable mention. And for now, I'd also like to thank you for listening to both of our top 10 episodes. Let us know why we're wrong! We love it! We love it! Yay, alright! Complain.